You ever feel like you're doing everything right financially, but somehow life still feels expensive no matter how hard you work? You wake up early every morning. You go to work. You try to save money consistently. Maybe you stopped wasting money on random stuff. Maybe you even started learning about investing, budgeting, or building multiple income streams. And yet, your financial situation still feels stuck. At the end of the month, your bank account doesn't look the way you expected it to look by now. Then you open social media for a few minutes and suddenly it feels like everyone else figured something out that you didn't. People your age are driving luxury cars, flying business class, buying expensive watches, moving into luxury apartments, posting photos from vacations that probably cost more than your monthly salary. And naturally, your brain starts comparing. You start wondering if you're behind financially, even though deep down you know comparison is dangerous. But here's what most people don't realize. A lot of people who look rich are actually financially fragile. And the people who are truly wealthy? Most of them don't look wealthy at all. My name is Demas, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. If you're someone who feels stuck financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, most people grow up believing wealth is something you can immediately recognize. Nice car, luxury clothes, big house, expensive vacations. We're taught that if someone looks successful, they must be financially secure. But here's the thing. That assumption is completely broken. According to Federal Reserve data, millions of people with high incomes still struggle with debt, low savings, and financial stress. Some people earn six figures and still live paycheck to paycheck because their lifestyle grows as fast as their income. And honestly, that's terrifying, because it means income alone doesn't create wealth. Behavior does. This is where it gets really interesting. A lot of truly wealthy people intentionally avoid looking rich. They don't feel pressure to impress strangers because their confidence comes from financial stability, not external validation. One of the clearest signs someone is secretly wealthy is surprisingly simple. They don't feel the need to constantly prove it. Now, you might be thinking, well, if I had money, I'd enjoy nice things too. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem starts when people buy things mainly to impress other people. Because a lot of spending today isn't really about enjoyment anymore, it's about status. People want to look successful. They want validation. They want social proof that they're winning financially. That's why some people finance luxury cars they can barely afford or spend thousands on designer brands while carrying credit card debt behind the scenes. Emotionally, those purchases create temporary confidence. But financially, they often create long-term pressure. Here's what most people don't realize. Quietly, wealthy people usually think differently. Instead of asking, will this impress people? They ask, does this actually improve my life enough to justify the cost? When financial chaos happens, most people react emotionally almost immediately. The stock market drops. News headlines become dramatic. Social media starts spreading fear everywhere. And suddenly people panic. They sell investments, stop investing completely, or freeze because they're terrified of losing money. But quietly, wealthy people often react very differently. They stay calm. And honestly, that calmness is usually one of the biggest hidden signs of financial intelligence. Here's why. Most people experience something psychologists call loss aversion. The pain of losing money feels much stronger emotionally than the happiness of gaining money. So when investments go down, people panic even if the drop is temporary. Now imagine two investors. One person sees a market crash and thinks, I need to get out before I lose more money. The other sees the same crash and thinks, everything is discounted right now. Same situation, completely different mindset. This is where it gets really interesting. Wealthy people understand that emotional decisions are often expensive decisions. Most people spend years chasing higher income because they believe more money automatically solves financial problems. But here's the thing. Income alone doesn't create wealth. Cash flow does. And quietly, wealthy people understand this better than almost anyone. Let's compare two people. Person A earns $250,000 a year, but spends almost everything trying to maintain an expensive lifestyle. Luxury car payments, high-end apartments, expensive restaurants, constant upgrades. The income looks impressive, but the money disappears just as fast as it comes in. Now compare that to person B. They make $90,000 a year, live below their means, and consistently invest $2,000 every month into long-term assets. At an average annual return of 8%, that becomes roughly $1.1 million after 20 years. Not because they were flashy, not because they got lucky, but because they understood consistency. Here's what most people don't realize. A high income can hide terrible financial habits for a very long time, but eventually math always catches up. One of the biggest reasons many high-income people still feel broke is something called lifestyle inflation. The moment they earn more money, they immediately start spending more money. They get a raise and suddenly upgrade their apartment. Then comes the newer car, more expensive vacations, luxury subscriptions, designer brands, and slowly their financial pressure returns again, just at a higher level. This is where quietly wealthy people think differently. Instead of upgrading their lifestyle every time income increases, they usually increase investments first. Because they understand something most people ignore. Temporary excitement fades incredibly fast. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Human beings adapt quickly to upgrades. That dream car becomes normal after a few months. The luxury apartment stops feeling exciting. The expensive purchases lose emotional impact surprisingly fast. But the financial cost stays. And here's what makes this really dangerous. Most people focus only on monthly payments instead of total long-term cost. Quietly, wealthy people obsess over opportunity cost because they understand every dollar spent today also has a future value tomorrow. One of the strongest signs someone is quietly wealthy is their ability to say no without feeling insecure about it. No to unnecessary upgrades. No to social pressure. No to buying things just to fit in. And honestly, that's becoming harder than ever today, because modern culture constantly pushes people to compare themselves with others. You see friends buying luxury cars, traveling every few months, wearing expensive clothes, upgrading phones every year, and eventually your brain starts treating those things like normal expectations. That's the dangerous part. A lot of spending decisions are not logical at all. They're emotional reactions to comparison. People spend money because they're afraid of looking behind financially, even when the purchase hurts them long term. But quietly, wealthy people usually detach themselves from that pressure. They understand that every unnecessary expense reduces future freedom. This is where it gets really interesting. Discipline compounds just like money compounds. Every time someone delays gratification, avoids impulsive spending, and prioritizes long-term stability over short-term validation, they slowly create a financial gap that becomes enormous over time. The deepest difference between people who only look rich and people who are actually wealthy usually comes down to one thing: what they truly value. Most people chase status. They want visible success, recognition, validation from other people. That's why so many financial decisions are designed to be seen. The expensive car, the luxury watch, the high-end apartment, the constant upgrades, but quietly wealthy people often prioritize something completely different. Freedom. Freedom to leave a stressful job. Freedom to handle emergencies without panic. Freedom to spend time with family. Freedom to make decisions without constantly worrying about money. And honestly, freedom is far more valuable than status, because status is expensive to maintain. The more your identity depends on looking successful, the more trapped you become financially. Your lifestyle becomes harder to support, your expenses grow, and suddenly you need to keep earning more just to maintain appearances. Meanwhile, someone living below their means may actually control their life far more than someone earning twice as much. Look, one of the biggest financial mistakes people make is confusing the appearance of wealth with actual wealth. Because society rewards visible success constantly. People admire luxury cars. They compliment expensive clothes. They celebrate flashy lifestyles online. And after seeing that every day, it becomes easy to believe that spending money is proof of success. But here's the thing. A lot of people who look wealthy are financially stressed behind the scenes. Some are buried in debt. Some have almost no savings. And some are only one emergency away from serious financial problems. Meanwhile, the truly wealthy person often looks completely normal. Because real wealth is usually quiet. It's not about impressing strangers. It's about building control over your life, control over your time, control over your decisions, control over your future. And honestly, that's probably the highest form of financial success anyone can achieve. You don't need to become rich overnight to start changing your financial future. You just need to stop making decisions based on temporary validation and start thinking long-term.